Who's that furry friend? Oh,
I'm
you
in her spot. She's mad at me for it.
poor
Good
animal.
morning, everybody. Welcome to a super fun episode today, a nice Tuesday rainy morning edition. Today we have my friend Katie, so I'm going to have her introduce herself in just a second. We're going to be talking about befriending our bodies. Katie's going to tell us about energy work, concept that I'm not super familiar with, so I'm really excited to learn. And if anyone joining live has questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. But yes, welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here, Katie.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I feel energized already um,
Good.
here. So, my name is Katie, and I am a Reiki practitioner. So, that's like Reiki is a form of energy healing that can be infused into all things. So, with humans, with animals, also brought into food in our body, and can be incorporated in so many ways. So, I'm really excited and passionate about sharing about that today and this morning. But then I also have a background in somatic psychology and work as a somatic psychotherapist. So that's a lot of the work I do around befriending your body, and have a program specifically around embodiment, one's relationship with food, and a way to really have a relationship with oneself that's based out of friendship and kindness. And so that is kind of what I'm excited to talk about and bring to the space today and this morning.
Yay. Thank you. It's going to be so fun. So, tell us, you kind of told us what you do for work. Ooh. But tell us what decade of life you're in and then some things you like to do for fun.
Wonderful. So I am in my 20s. I'm 26, and I have leaned more into like I'm a being of joy. I think we're joyful beings, and I just, for me, what's fun is like when I'm in moments of laughter. And I was just like, with this, where it's like laughter is so good for the heart chakra. So whatever that might be for me, like I very much am a child at heart. Like I'll go, it's a rainy day today, but I'll go and spend out time outside in the rain. Or I actually really love like jumping. So it's like whether that's a trampoline or just fun, playful things, especially in the
Yeah.
summer, being around like younger kids or animals and everything like that. I find them to be such pure, energetic, joyful beings. So
Yes.
I love being in a lot of that space and just leaning into that. So those are some of the things I find fun. Music certainly too is something that just really like will rise my vibration. I will be driving in my car and singing and putting my hand out the window and really just immersed in life. So I think there's a lot that can just be fun when we're kind of open and connected to it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're officially by far our youngest guest. Which is great. I love it. Where there's no age discrimination here. Sometimes clients will ask me like, "Am I too old to work with you? Am I too young to work with you?" I'm like, "No, if this clicks for you, like of course not." So I love it, but it is really cool. And you said something that I definitely want to make sure to ask you. So we'll get right into energy healing.
Cool.
You said raise vibration. So there's a lot of buzzy things in the wellness world right now that are like exactly dead on or adjacent to what we both do, like nervous system, dead on for you, super adjacent for me. You said raise the vibration of energy. So can we start out by talking a little bit about the difference between like energies in our body and our nervous system and kind of are those synonyms? How do those interact?
Yeah, I love that question. And I think part of where I've been in my own journey with understanding energy and understanding like vibration, I'm like, I kind of start with the baseline that like everything is energy,
Yeah.
like from our thoughts, from our emotions, from, components of our physical body internally, but also everything around us. So the air we're breathing in, the food we're taking in, the sounds and everything coming in, so like everything has kind of a vibration and a frequency. And so it makes sense where there can be things that kind of get stuck and heavy in our heart, or even when we think of the nervous system, when we enter into a state of like sympathetic arousal where we feel flooded and we're in a state of fight or flight. Like that's using up a lot of energy, and in a way that can be more geared towards fear or automatic response and firing and wiring that's kind of keeping us in a state of stress or strain. And so that can all be going on. And I say too, it's not that that's necessarily bad or wrong, because in some component it's natural to us. But what I've found in my own experience and working with others is that when we're kind of in these automatic energetic pathways, we're kind of not necessarily in the experience of, our true harmonized balanced selves. um,
Mhm.
so finding a way back into that middle is something that we all have and hold inherently. um, but sometimes when we've been living for so long outside of that, it can feel like, wow, like, do I even have a middle, or what might that be? And I'm very mindful too, because there is a lot around like nervous system regulation and
Yeah.
relax and being, completely balanced and calm and cool. And that's definitely not the work I do. I believe that when we tune into the wisdom of the body and our energies and have modalities that honor that, we can begin just to trust and know inherently that, like, we can heal ourselves, we can help ourselves, we can be in a really natural and nurturing relationships with ourselves as a way to be in the world. So I don't necessarily like prescribe like a quick fix to like, let me just feel better in this moment, or let me just like
Right.
here go away in this moment, because I also come from the perspective of like what presents and shows itself through our state is a form of communication. And so it's
Mm.
this way of, okay, can I take a moment and listen and sense where that is, slow it down, and then from there kind of begin to kind of come into the moment in a different way. And even in slowing it down in that way, it's actually, from the sensory pathway perspective, it's reshaping, because it's not going into that automatic firing,
Mm.
like I'm going into fight or flight. Instead, it's slowed down and in kind of finding a new way to be. So,
Yeah. And why is that middle so powerful? For
oh,
people who are, like, new to this concept,
oh, the middle is
is that even possible to
I
articulate?
Oh, yes, I love the
Yeah.
middle, and I what I find is kinda cool is, like, everyone's middle is different, and
Yeah.
I like to kind of bring in and explain too, like, it's not like, "Oh, I'm in this middle where I'm really calm, and as I go through my day, like, I'm just in complete zen and peaced out." Like, I say the middle is, like, when you can meet experience, you can meet life and what's there for you, and meet it in a way where, okay, now I'm like rising to the energy of the environment, where like I'm around kids or I'm going out and there's a lot going on around me, but I'm with it and I can meet it and I can be in it. Or that I'm meeting the moment where it's kind of slowed down, or your homeostatic balance, so to speak, which is the middle, is like there's an increased flexibility in your nervous system to attuned to, what's going on. So it's that internal environment is able to kind of meet and match the external environment. So you're in kind of that rhythm. And so that I like, even too, like I see so much of it through nature and like our rhythms of regulation, being able to be kind of with the tides of, what's around us and then what's within us. So I like to say too, it's like, it just kind of feels like this wave where we're not hitting these massive peaks. We're like, oh my gosh, I was so up here. And like, wow, like now I need to completely like get away from everyone, or that like I'm really shut down and I can't get pulled up into any other state. So when we spend, and then what I say too is like, the more we kind of familiar ourselves with that middle, um,
Mhm.
it expands, and the more we spend time in that middle, it expands, and it's accessible to all of us. Um, but I do like to acknowledge if there's been, histories of trauma and
Mhm.
histories of challenging relationships with oneself, and body or in these ways, that window can be experienced as much less available. And I say we
Mhm.
all have that, but our access to it based on how much we're tapping in there, it might feel different. So I
Mhm.
hold all that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Can I give you a couple of what I think is, like, another way to describe
Yeah.
the middle so
Yeah.
that people can feel like maybe it's more relatable, even more relatable? Would you say there's, like the middle has, like, increased presence?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay, so it sounds like it's like a place where, like, you don't become just by accessing the middle, you don't become impervious to life's ups and downs, you just have more resilience, you're able to bring yourself back to center, like, w w I keep tying it into nervous system, but it sounds a lot like energy work,
mm,
like eating better. It doesn't stay in a silo. When you do energy work or you work on your middle or your balance, it
mm,
has these wonderful tendrils that go out to every area of your experience. Just like when I work with someone on their weight, their cardiovascular biomarkers improve, their blood sugar numbers improve, right? It's not just about one thing. We're not no nothing about us is singular. It's all connected to everything else. So, like fight or flight is supposed to work that like we see a danger, we spike, all our blood goes to our extremities and certain things quiet down in our brain, our digestion stops, we respond to the emergency, we calm right back down. Like that's how our ancestors did it, that's how the cave people did it, that's how we evolved, that's how animals do it. But like due to our hyper stimulating environment and lives and modern culture and the news and all of that, we just like stay there, right?
mm,
So finding the middle is the synonym correct. You're increasing and getting back to your ability to respond to a stimuli and then get back to grounded.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
love that. Yeah, the presence piece too, because I think you're able to really be with whatever's going on. And it,
Yeah, you
yeah.
don't have to hide from it. You don't have to like try to get out of it. Like I had a pretty uncomfortable situation like last week, and
Mm,
instead of jumping out of it by putting on a podcast or something like that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make my lunch with like the quiet. I'm just gonna sit with it, which is not natural to me. I'm learning these things myself, which is why this is also so interesting. But like, would you say that's an example of like being able to be more regulated? Is like not just like grabbing your phone and scrolling and not just looking for an escape, which is like what we're so primed to do right now.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think sometimes too, like when we stay in a state long enough, because I trust the wisdom of the nervous system to say, like, it'll find its way back, you know? So
Yeah.
even dropping into that state of like, oh, a moment where there was really something that came through, almost when we like scramble to get out of that, like the nervous system has this autonomic hierarchy, so it knows its way. And so sometimes when we kind of can constrict around the state itself or pop out of it, we're kind of interrupting what's natural to like our system. And part of what I love about Reiki energy healing is another way I like to explain it. It's it's a way of balancing all the different layers of all the different layers of the body. So the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, but and then specifically the nervous system body, which can be, in chronic, hypo or hyper arousal. So what I really appreciate about the Reiki is that it has the energy has an intelligence of its own. So it actually, instead of us, like there being like what like in the mind thinking like how do I regulate my nervous system, like I'm really like high stressed, or I more fall towards like I don't have a lot of energy and I'm more depressive and a lot of that. What I appreciate about this modality is that like at any given time or any given day when you're receiving and connecting to Reiki, it's a natural nervous system regulator, so it
Mm,
works, and like you said so beautifully, like it works across all, it's all connected. So it's working on all the systems of your body, from
yeah.
digestion to cardiovascular to fascia to all of it. So it kind of not only reaching all those places, but connecting all those systems within you, so that the natural harmony and flow and beauty of the body can be experienced. So yeah.
Mhm. the beauty of the body. How many people are like, "What? My body? Beauty of my body?" And, like, no matter how many times we may say, like, your body you can love your body and be working on something. You
Yeah.
can love your life and be working on something. Your body is beautiful just the way it is. Let's talk about that because I think that's a concept that adults are so deeply uncomfortable with, no matter how it looks. We used to want to in the medical world and, like, in the dietitian world, like, diagnose people whose bodies looked fine, but that they were obsessed with them not looking fine with, like, body dysmorphia,
Yeah.
which is, like, a whole kind of other thing. So, like, talk to me about that. So, like, the beauty of our body as an adult. Adults are really uncomfortable with this. Children know this. Children don't even think about this. Children appreciate their bodies.
Yeah.
They're the best teachers ever, which could be a whole episode itself. Like, they are my children are, like, my idols, and I love watching them with their friends and stuff too. Like, all children are perfect and wonderful and can teach us adults so much. But anyway, let's talk about that. Your
Yeah.
body's beautiful. You say that to an adult, and they have to sit with it. Everyone listening to this live or on the replay, your body is beautiful.
Yeah.
Sit with that. How does that feel?
Yeah. And I believe that like even that statement, it's I don't know if that like it would make sense to me if that didn't get in for people.
Yes, of
Like,
course, of
no,
course.
that's bullshit. Like that, like
Right.
but like that's not real,
You'll be like, "Who, me? No way." Like,
right?
"Yeah, you."
You. And I guess I take it, and when I say that, I am with kind of, and this is something I, teach and explore in the Befriending Your Body program that I offer, is like kind of the difference between body image, um,
Mhm.
surface body, and embodiment, and being connected to the, not even the subtle body, but being connected to our body from the inside out, instead of where so much of our training and conditioning and the medical model of health is like, okay, the surface body and the experience of the surface body is like, I am this weight, this is like X metric is that this is this. And so we experience ourselves as, like a metric or a statistic or a number or an image. And that fixation um, is actually like, I like to, and that's of the mind. It's like, oh, that's a thought. And that isn't necessarily like I mean, we think as a part of our whole being, but the beauty of the body when I say that is like, I was able to get up this morning and I noticed my heart rate, and I was able to, use my legs to go and be outside and walk around, and don't even have to think about like being able to breathe right now, or all of these things that the body is automatically doing on our behalf that is bringing forward life. And when we slow that down to really just say like, wow, the body is so wise and is doing so much without us even noticing. And so kind of what I connect to with the beauty of the body is becoming more connected to and aware of all the ways in which we um hold within inside this life in all our different systems, and how the body can be experienced as a place of life, from noticing. A big part of what I teach too is around interoceptive awareness, which is kind of the idea of sensing the inner body and the internal sensation. So like I can feel my heart rate. I can notice my breath. I can notice, oh wow, like a hunger cue or a thirst cue, or I'm tired or I'm more alert and awake. And I find like the beauty of the body to be kind of when we're noticing more in this curiosity and this compassion of all that's happening within us. And that too is kind of where I bring in this relationship piece of like, once we're aware of those cues and that communication, that very wise communication from the body, we can begin to really turn towards that and befriend that and listen to it. And like that can be the beautiful piece of like, wow, there is information here. I can listen to it, which is a very different approach than like I'm looking at this number and that's not right. And it's disconnected from maybe the communication from the body itself. So I think that's where I bring in like the beauty in that, like
Yeah.
we're beings that we can really listen from the intelligence that's coming through us.
Yeah. So, like, if an adult hears that and doesn't get through and they listen to the rest, it's really like your body is beautiful because it's working. Your body is beautiful in that it's allowing you to be here, right? It's like breathing without you having to think about it. It's doing all these things without you having to think about it. It's not like I even framed it as like that, I'm not impervious to the education I've had or diet culture or like all these things. Like my mind goes to the physical body, of course, right? Like that's what I work with. That's like more, but you reminded us that like it's really like yes, and it's really not just about like how your physical body looks. It's actually the fact that it works.
Mhm. Yeah.
That can be what makes it beautiful.
Yeah. And it makes me think of, and this is something else we go into in the Befriending Your Body program, like kind of this difference between gratitude and appreciation, like
Mm,
of being with the ways in which like there can be but it can be a beautiful practice to appreciate like just the things that we don't or not even connecting to on, minute to minute. Literally, I could say day to day, but minute to minute, like, oh,
yeah,
wow, minute to minute, like, and that's the life force itself moving through all
yeah,
is like what it means. Like this is you said, like this is the vessel in which we're experiencing all this in. And
right.
I hold too, like where the conditioning and the training of diet culture is there's a mind body divide, so it is disconnecting. So we are trained to experience like, oh wow, like I'm experiencing my surface body, and when I think of my body, it's about what it looks like, it's about what it can do for me, or what it like how it's being categorized and seen. And so that definitely exists in the culture, but there is another truth of the body that can be experienced from the inside out, which is the embodied place of like sensing and feeling and taking an experience through the body. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah,
Even that concept right there is so profound, like inside out instead of outside in.
it is. It
Did you watch the Pixar movie Inside Out?
of course.
I haven't. I heard it's like I have my own work to do, right? Like, I don't wanna watch it and cry and, like, feel all the things, but, like, I probably that means I should, and I will at some point, but maybe that's, like, a really good place. Because my next question is about, like, hunger cues, and for a lot of people, we are either conditioned or we learn or we, maladapt based on survival that hunger cues are a problem,
Yeah.
especially here in the US with our very, very, very problematic food system, our very problematic healthcare system, our very problematic societal values. Like it's all about like convenience and all these things. So I spend a lot of my work with my clients around hunger cues and
Yeah.
trying to create neutrality with these. And like I have a friend who she's like, I have 7 types of hunger cues and I'm like, oh my God, like that's amazing. I can't even imagine that, but just getting to the place of like neutrality around a hunger cue, it's not a problem. Hunger is not a problem in this developed country where you have access to food, right? A normal person moving through their day, like you don't have to get angry that your body wants lunch. You don't have to be, it's like it's not a problem that your body's cueing you for a snack. This is a biological necessity to stay alive. So I work a lot around like, like the more science and nutrition and like food-based pieces of hunger cues. So I want to get your take on it. And I okay, let's start there because I have a follow-up. I don't want to lose it, but let's get your take on hunger cues and like your wisdom around how you help people with that.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's part of my like automatic response to that too is like some like kind of to the latter part of what you were saying. It's almost like we get a cue, like we're getting that communication. And because of the external in influence of diet
Right.
culture and how that hunger has been used, it can almost like the relationship to a hunger cue kind of based on someone's history can kind of stir up the nervous system, I like to say.
Yeah.
So I like to bring that in too, where and kind of parse it out, like untangle these layers a bit, because it's like we can be like, oh my gosh, it's the hunger cue. But it can be the relationship to the hunger cue that is kind of
Yes.
activating that nervous system to go into sympathetic, like what's going on here? I have so many thoughts. What does this mean? This, and the third, all of that. When if we're to bring it back, let's parse it out like that perhaps isn't the hunger cue itself or the communication from the body, that like it's saying, hey, nourishment, energy out.
Mhm.
I've probably done things, I need energy in. But because of the training and the wiring and the association and the culture, it can also bring us to a place where it's firing up those brain loops of this is a problem, this is bad, this is something to
Right.
figure out, which is different than the experience of the hunger cue itself. So like separating that out, and that's a big part of what I do around like the nervous system psychoeducation on how when we're bringing in the lens of like with food and disordered eating or eating disorder history or things like that, like how that those signals can kind of also have a nervous system correlate that can kind of mix things and confuse things and make things hard
Yeah.
to differentiate. So a big part of what I teach is, like I said, on the interoceptive awareness, which I like to share and just to validate and normalize when there's been extremes of any form in the body,
Yeah.
those cues can be less accessible to us. There can be a hypersensitivity to them. So it's like, oh, I have a cue and I'm experiencing that in like a hypersensitized way where it's feeling really intense because of how it's been stored, like how it's been kind of pattern in the nervous system, or that I'm really disconnected from the cue. And so that can kind of stir forward a dysregulation of itself of like, I don't even know, kind of it draws a blank because our system's really cut off from that. So the cue can kind of be confusing. But what I like to say is kind of coming back into that is like creating enough of a consistency with oneself where that cue can just begin to come through, just like anything else, like a relationship. We're bringing back an ability to have communication. And that
Mm.
is so necessary. I mean, like
Yeah.
we need it. And it's, I like to say too, like it's natural to all of us, even if it's been offline for a long time or disconnected from a long time. The way back is like, can there be consistency now? And I bring in the importance of consistency and a bit of that, because that's a bit of like the safety of the nervous system. And so the nervous system, once it knows consistency and some predictability, it can begin to communicate on your behalf what it may need and stabilize things. So yeah.
Mm. Mm. So many good nuggets in there. I love it. I'm so glad you said that about consistency because I think it's important for all of us to hear it from multiple places and from, like, multiple perspectives and modalities, like, I call it with a lot of my clients, like, I call it, like, "Okay, now it's time to do, like, the really unsexy stuff and be consistent." Like, I
Perfect.
call it what it is, like, it's I myself am very wired for, like, novelty and hopping around and the next shiny thing when it comes to, like, my own things, but, like, really the results, the safety,
Yeah.
the results one is looking for in all these different areas of life, be it relationships, health, performance at work, professional gain, all this type of thing, is consistency.
Yeah.
So consistency needs a good PR team to make it sexy again so that everyone wants it. But really, like, the best providers of anything, like the best practitioners of anything out there, like the best coaches about money, the
Yeah.
best personal trainers, the best healers, the best anything, they're talking about consistency. So,
Uh,
do you have any other insights or any other wisdom you would want to share around like the safety of consistency and like things people can think about with that.
Yeah. I mean, with consistency too, I like to bring in like that is just behaviorally, like inherently, that's communicating to to like an expectation to your nervous system that it can begin to
Yeah.
and so much of my own experience and working with others, like what I hear time and time again is like this distrust that has been kind of deepened over time. And so like that, from moving from more of a dysregulated place to more of a, you know, resourced and regulated place with things, comes through the doorway of consistency. And I think it
Yeah.
to what you were saying about, you know, the middle being resilient. Like the more I'm in that consistency and that resiliency, then like I have a confidence in myself that like it's very clear on how I'm treating myself, this relation, like how I'm stepping through and having that really build for me, which I think when you're consistent with anything, like there's a confidence that comes forward. There's also
Yeah.
like a clarity, like I know what I'm doing, and there can be a
Yes.
so all of this too, it's like the consistency has its purpose, but also kind of the qualities that can come from that, like it
Yeah.
begin to just naturally kind of bake in and become a way of living. So I think too, like if you're consistent long enough, it can kind of really come through for you as just a natural way.
Yeah. And like, would you agree with this statement? Speaking of consistent, I'm in her spot. This is like the most she like asks of me. Like she usually just does her own thing and I pet her a little bit. She is consistently going to sit here until I get out of her spot. Um, I forgot what I was gonna say because she's consistently pestering me. Oh. So in the vein of like consistency is safety, and it's like kind of the bedrock to everything that we might want. Do you find that people are open to it? Like, how do you approach the idea of like that it can be limiting? Right? It's the same concept of like knowing what you're eating, meal planning, and then just like sticking with it, or like having a budget and sticking with it. Like, if you can get to the place where you see it as freeing instead of limiting, so like consistency isn't limiting, it's actually quite freeing.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? What are your thoughts with that?
Absolutely. I feel, I mean, I part of what I teach in the program with Friending Your Body too is like kind of when we're really consistent with our, you know, specifically in this contest, like you know, the frequency and the frequency in which we're taking in nourishment. What I say that safeguards us too is like we're not going to such a place where we're going to get dysregulated again, because we know when there's not enough nourishment, there's not enough energy available in the body, automatically the body on our behalf will go into a state of dysregulation. So now we're safeguarding against that. We're saying, hey, because of the consistency and the clarity and providing for like the frequency in which I'm taking in food, like every, you know, a few hours, because it really like I'm not going to drop to such a place where it gets to a point where I'm
Yeah.
feeling really dysregulated. I think that that just provides like a presence with one's day where it's kind of like everything's in a natural flow, and so the consistency in that container, it's again, I also, part of the perspective I take with food and nourishment and with some of this too, it's like it is all energy, and so when we're bringing in more of that energy available to us, I'd never see that as limiting. It's like, wow, that's really allowed
Right.
to be in life. And that's going to lead us forward. And like mentally, like, and I understand because of the diet culture, it can be like there's a right and there's a wrong way. And there can be, you know, narratives around things. But when we're almost just to be with, okay, like if I'm putting energy into myself, what that will allow for me,
Mhm.
you know, that's a powerful thing. Like, I have
Yeah.
energy now, you know?
Yeah. You wouldn't, not put gas in your car and then be like, "Why doesn't this work?" Like, it's, like, the simplest analogy, and it's not just about food, but, like, energy in general, you know? Like,
Yeah, we
we
gotta
expect
record
our
this.
bodies to work on E, like, come on. We've all been there, we've all done it, but it's, like, in a different way.
On E. We can't be on empty.
Yeah,
Certainly not.
yeah. No, absolutely. So my follow-up about hunger cues, is there anything that people can do? Like, I'll use myself as an example. I I have not given meditating a solid effort, and I don't plan on anytime soon. But I do have a couple practices that, like, help keep me in my body and keep me present and keep me grounded and things like that. If someone were listening to this and they're like, "Oh, I really wanna, like, figure out how to tap into my hunger cues, but I don't really, like, have a lot of time right now," is there any, like, quick suggestions you would give folks short of, like, getting a meditation practice going? Or I don't know what your answer is gonna be, so I'm just kinda preempting it with, like,
Yeah.
something that feels really accessible to people to start, even if it's not hunger cues, but, like, just to start receiving those communications a little bit better or create a situation where they feel more open to receiving those.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love this question. And I this for me when I learned this is again from the befriending your body program I'm doing, the interoceptive the interoceptive awareness, I like to say is like it's the language of the body. And the good thing about that is the body, it's kind of simple in the way it communicates. And so it doesn't I actually for me I don't use it as like I'm sitting down and doing this practice in this way. I'm in a practice of noticing. And so what we can begin to notice about the body is like, oh, like notice, like even when you wake up in the morning, like temperature wise, am I feeling warm? Am I feeling cool? Am I feeling neutral? Like noticing temperature, noticing breath. Like, oh, does my breath feel like more fast or slow? My heart, do I notice my heart rate? And this isn't something that you need to be like, I'm going down this whole list, but
Right,
I actually like even I walk up the staircase and I'm like, oh, I take it when I get up the stairs, I'm like, oh, my heart rate, it increased.
right.
Oh, I went outside and I felt the cool air on my face. I cooled down. And it can be like, why does that matter? Why does that matter? But
Mhm.
when I teach this is every time we are connecting now to an interoceptive cue, we're waking up the insula, which is the part of the brain which again holds all that interoceptive communication and those cues. So the more we're firing up that part of the brain, it will work on our behalf and can associate with okay, like because it's the same processing of the body of like, oh, that hunger cue, or oh, that cue, a thirst cue, or that cue of like I'm tired and I want to end my day now. Every time we're listening now, as we're moving through our days, we're opening just like anything else, we're opening up that channel of communication. We're more available to it, and we're connecting that intentionally through the neural network, but then also the sensory pathway of like, oh, I felt like cool, or so it's kind of building that network. And I say too, it's like for me that practice or just that awareness and invitation in has truly felt like relational to my body, like, oh, I'm noticing that something just shifted. And so it
Mm,
can kind of be an interesting experience of really being with the inner body and the sensations and all the life that's happening inside as you're going out there, which I think is a natural grounding point because when there's so much external feedback coming in,
right.
being connected enough to some of that internal feedback can really just be a solid ground.
Yeah. So if this is a new concept to someone, it might feel like a conscious effort at first, just like anything new, but then it will start to feel you'll get that part of your brain on board, and then that will also work positively to make it feel a bit more passive and a little bit more natural.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and like it can even, like I think I bring in a lot of sensory stuff too, like, oh, like I noticed the smell of that, or I noticed like even with the rain, like the sounds and just some of that
Mm,
sensory stuff too, because we're
yeah.
beings. So the more we're connecting to sensory input and information, we're kind of working with that. So it can be a savoring practice where, like, oh, I'm just holding my cup of tea or a candle
Yeah.
or the sound of things. Those all are very helpful too. That's the externalception, like the externalception, which is like the external senses, but then also that interoception of like the heart rate or the breath or the temperature. And it can be just like really subtle too.
Yeah, and this is available to all of us. This is free, and we're talking about, like, seconds. This is just seconds of time
Yeah. Mhm.
to get this going. That's really powerful. It's always, like, the simplest
Yeah.
things are, like, have the biggest impact on our health.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, really powerful. So cool. So it can feel like a conscious effort, but it can be very worthwhile, and then it will feel much more passive.
Yeah.
So people don't have to meditate to get in touch with themselves. They
Mm,
don't need to go to a Buddhist retreat
mm,
or go to yoga class or anything like that to
yeah.
start to incorporate this in.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
barrier to entry couldn't be lower.
Yeah, I feel strongly about that because it is about, I mean, I think it's like it's accessible to all of us, and it's because we share the same wisdom,
Mm,
you know?
mm,
And and I always hold too, it's like if that feels really far off, it's like that's okay too.
mhm. Yeah.
Um and it can be like I also acknowledge like turning towards the body as a resource and befriending, like starting with the small in that can actually be a safety piece too. Like I'm just gonna notice, like as I put my hand to my forehead, like is it warm or cold? Like sometimes we don't have to drop into completely feeling all aspects of the body, especially if that's held a lot of discomfort and
Yeah.
fear, because that can also be flooding and overwhelming. So, actually, by design, staying with the stuff that is small, that is really accessible, is that way back of like just building day by day, moment by moment, like, oh, I'm connecting here. I'm connecting here. And the more we connect, the more we can begin to see and know like it's okay to be there. And there can be a familiarity and a comfort in coming back in.
Mhm. Yeah. So cool, so powerful. So, one of the other things that you talk about is like somatic work, somatic self-compassion. So, soma just means body, right? So, is somatic like of the body,
Yeah. So
pertaining to the body?
yeah, so and I think with so much of the somatic work too, it's like the embodiment piece of
Mm,
the experience of the body. So from the inside out, like knowing and
yeah,
saying so beautifully about children, and like I so relate, like when you're around an animal or you're around a child even, like there's no question of if they're connected to all aspects of themselves. And so with somatic work, it's this understanding that like to kind of come like to process or to engage, we don't only have to take that top down of like I think it and
right.
that's what's known. Instead, the body, again, and we're trained out of this, the body is this source of information because I like to explain too, it's like 80% of what we're processing is coming bottom up. It's coming from our nervous system, is picking up all this information and then channeling up and then being received in the brain, and then we get a thought form. So, like, the more we're with how much is coming into the body, and using that information as a way to orient us towards, like, oh, like this is how I feel, or oh, this is what I'm to do now, or oh, this is, like this is true for me, or this is what I'm connecting to, instead of just saying like, let me get there in my mind and get a thought and get it right and all of that, because it can be more disconnecting. That's what the somatic work encourages, and it kind of facilitates a process of deepening that communication with the body through noticing, through kind of sensing and with sensation, with energy, and using that really as the tool and the guide of a lot of the work done. So kind of I also, I do therapy, and a lot of the guidance I take is like, what do you notice? What do you notice in your body?
Mhm.
Notice in this moment? And we use that as the authentic starting point of like, we're not in a story about this thing that happened or this thing that happened. We are in the embodied experience, and we allow that to unfold and come forward. And then with the self-compassion piece, which I feel is just natural to the somatic work. Like I say this too, like the body is like so compassionate. Like
Mm,
pain, it feels pain, it'll feel it. So it's like, I think the being in the body, it inherently kind of brings forward the sense of compassion, because it
mhm.
holds what is present, and you can begin to feel towards that experience like, oh wow, like this isn't made up, like this isn't something to doubt, this isn't something to discount. Like it can really be kind of felt. um
Yeah,
so I actually feel like the the self-compassion piece pretty naturally can come through in the somatic work when you're connected in there.
yeah. So the body can be the way in. It
Absolutely.
is almost always maybe the way in.
Yeah, it is. And I like too about the self-compassion work. I kind of explain like it's kind of again from the inside out. Um,
Mhm.
it can even be like, oh, I'll never get that self-compassion thing, or I'll never get that self-love thing. Like that's so, like all these external ideas of what that looks like. There is a lot pushed around, like what healing looks like, or what recovery
Right,
looks like, or what wellness looks like, or what health looks
right.
like out in society. And that can feel almost disconnecting. But in a lot of the somatic approach, and with the self-compassion work, what I find and what I've found is like it's from the inside out, in the sense that because your body and yourself, your own experience, the self-compassion can come really begin to come alive as you tune in and listen to the experience of the body, and hold that in a different way. It doesn't make any of it go away. It's just held differently. And when
Mhm.
it's held differently, it's again that friendship of like how you would be with a friend who is in this experience. And it
Yeah.
it's can when you talk about it, it's like, what is that? But it's a different way to hold. Like it doesn't say that there won't be moments that are hard. It doesn't say there won't be moments that aren't painful. Like compassion says it can be hard too. And
Mhm,
many
mhm,
can exist within one's experience.
mhm. Yeah, well said. Um, Back to tactical for just a second because I can't help it, and I want people to, like this is what I feel like some people in my audience will wanna know. Um, As far as, like, tools for this, like, you're so multifaceted, this might be a hard question to ask, but, like, what are things that are kind of mainstream that people are using to benefit themselves in their energy, in their somatic connection, in their self-compassion that they might not even realize? An example that comes to mind for me is, like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, like, weighted blankets became, like, very popular, right? Like and I remember, like, my therapist in the past has given me, like, when I struggled with anxiety and didn't really understand any of it, like probably like 10 years ago, like like do the five senses when you're in the middle of like a very hard moment. Or like, so what are some of these things that are kind of mainstream, maybe tools, maybe like just common thoughts, like the weighted blankets that are doing a lot of work here that people might not even realize are helping them a lot?
Yeah. I I mean, I think like I'll bring it back to something I said, and what I'm with a lot now lately too is like from an energy perspective, like everything is energy. And
Yeah.
simply kind of being with that, I think allows there to be a more of a mindfulness around like, given that all of this is energy and I'm energy, and kind of understanding that like we're constantly in this back and forth communication of like we're giving off energy and we're taking in. Like I think from that place, like that's happening already. And so when we can kind of take awareness of that and take responsibility of that and just connect to that, that can actually really help and inform and kind of allow there to be choice around how I can respond to myself now. And I use a very simple example. Like, love music, big music person.
Mhm,
It's
mhm. Yeah,
vibration.
people don't realize how much music can change. Like, I really started realizing in the past few years, but, like, what it looked like in the past before I connected it was, like, I can't exercise without music. It's like the music raises the vibration, it makes me stay in that exercise longer, right? Like, so that's yeah, more examples like that, like the music and things that we're using to, like, regulate ourselves that we don't even realize and maybe we can give ourselves credit for.
Well, exactly. And that's what I like to say. I don't like to make it
Yeah,
hard. I don't like to make it a laundry list. I'm like, okay, this is already what's happening and what you're doing. And
yeah,
so, I mean, I would say with the music piece, I would say also with food. I mean, I very
yeah,
much see it as a practice of, I mean, it's a different form of energy healing. Yeah, but it's
mhm.
energy. I mean, I'm with, okay, what a calorie. It's energy. And so I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm bringing that in for myself. And what I say with Reiki, and it's a whole practice, it's a beautiful modality, but what it really, I simplify it, like, it works on intention. So we set any intention and just connect to the energy, invite that into any experience, invite that into food, invite that into healing in any way. This intention. So even as I take in this bit of food, like, do I have an intention that it just gives me the energy to, have energy for the rest of the day, or to really satiate, or to really allow me to try this new thing, or whatever you might want it to be. I think
yeah,
pairing just even a really subtle intention with whatever you're engaging with can amplify it and bring forward to you what you're looking to connect with. So even with music, I'm like, I kind of want some uplift, or I want,
right.
to kind of calm and slow down, or whatever it might be. So I always invite, like, bringing an intention into something that's kind of, and I like to say too, it's like we almost respond our nervous system, if we're to bring that perspective back in, like, what is kind of familiar and what is natural to us. So, like, if that's the music, if that's the weighted blanket, if that's like going on the slow walk, or something, like something that our system really knows is continuing to strengthen that support and that safety that we want more of in our experience.
Mhm,
The other thing I would say that is just probably something we can easily and accessibly do, I always take the cues of pace to be important as well. So, like, the nervous system, like when things are really feeling fast and flooding and, high, I say, like, we don't have to know what to do with that, but like maybe it's just to slow down. So, like, going on doing things more slow, or if we're feeling like more of a depressive heavy energy, just bringing a little bit more speed or a little bit more momentum into to a moment, if we're looking to shift that, and just seeing where that takes us. I think sometimes it's less about like the what we're doing, but maybe the quality of it. So, like, the pace
mm,
moving into it, the space in which we're giving ourselves for it. I think I sometimes am just more curious about the quality in which we're infusing some of these practices. So, like, bringing in intention, bringing in the space, and bringing in the pace to allow whatever naturally is to us. Or I also say availability, like what is actually available to us in any moment is a big factor as well.
mhm, mhm. Really powerful. So, in terms of, like so what you do for your clients is it almost like a form of co-regulation?
I mean, I do find therapy and therapeutic spaces. I mean, that's where number one thing, like, as much as, yes, there'll be content of a session, there'll be content of a session. There always is. Right. But what I more see my role as is to be a co-regulator. And
Yeah,
experience of co-regulation, what can really come alive is the healing process. And
yeah,
I always approach it that, like, everyone holds their own answers and holds their own wisdom. Is there a context of safety? Is there a context of support? Is there a relational way in which there can be a rhythm for someone to really resource and go into that place safely? And so in the somatic psychotherapy work I do, and I work at the Performance Sanctuary, which is in Ballston Spa, New York, that's a bit of like the context there, where it's kind
mm,
of co-regulation of the somatic psychotherapeutic process, where I do trauma work and I do, work around eating disorders and just kind of that flavor
Yeah.
of things. With the Reiki, it's a bit different, where I do energy healing, where it's, I have a table where I will, first speak with someone and kind of just get a sense of what they're noticing across all the layers. So physically, what they might be noticing, emotionally, mentally, kind of just getting a sense, like a pretty like fair just audit of like, okay, like this is what I notice and this is what it's like. And from that place, we kind of just set an intention for what they want to see come through. And I always kind of put the question of like, you know, um, the energy has an intelligence of its own. So it's even if it's
Mhm.
like a big question,
Yeah.
of, I don't even know where to start. I always sometimes invite a really genuine intention of like Reiki, just come into and go where you need to go and allow that to come through. And then I have a table, like a traditional Reiki table, where I offer, gentle hands above and hands on the body healing. And I'm guided. I'm guided by each person I work with. Every session is different. I learn so much. And it's a really interesting experience of kind of like seeing the before and seeing the after, and not in the sense of like people are coming in and they're dysregulated and not okay, but I find what's powerful about the modality is that people can see the intention come alive and really feel the shift of their system into whatever the natural balance is for them at any point. Yeah.
Yeah, so cool, so powerful. I'm gonna link all your information in the show notes too so people can find you. Um, and I kind of have one more topic I want to ask you about, and then if you have anything, we'll go over a few minutes. But this came to mind because she's sitting next to me, and
Oh.
I'm trying to pay more attention to her. Like, usually she's only with me because I'm in her spot, and I usually sit over there at my desk. And you were with horses this weekend.
Oh yeah.
And we live in an area we live by the Saratoga racetrack, and so, like, there's a lot of talk about horses, and, like, horses are these mystic, spiritual beings, from our indigenous roots anyway, and I know there's a sanctuary for horses where, like, people can go be with them, and, like, there's also the concept of, like, the animals that go into the hospitals and stuff and, like, help people, like, so are animals co-regulators? Because we hinted at this a little bit about like kids and animals being good influences on us because they're so embodied. So like are animals a good influence? And should I be, paying better attention to the fact that I have a little co-regulator right next to me?
Mm. Wow. Well, and you're also your sweater, like there's an animal in there. Like I'm
My my mother-in-law was like, "I love your sweater, except you don't like dogs, so you don't even like, how dare you?" And it's true, I don't like dogs.
oh, that's so
Um, but yeah, and I know, I just like it's so random that I put this on today, and I hadn't even like planned to ask the animal question, but
yeah.
between her and the horses, I was like, "Well, let's do it."
Yeah. So I part of my path with Reiki right now, like I continue to learn about all the ways in which you can use it. And something I feel really drawn towards is using it with animals and with horses.
Wow.
And I bring this piece in around horses, and I think it's important, and I bring it like it fascinated me when I learned about it. But I mean, horses are often like understood as like these highly like intelligent and
Yeah,
emotional beings, and they're so wise and they're so attuned, and it's true. And part
yeah.
of it's like, well, why is that true? And like I want to understand that. And so part of why it's true is that and I think this is a really beautiful thing to bring in, and it's helped me is like it's part of it is because horses, they have like these really round bellies, and
Mm,
so they have so many sensory neurons that live on their belly, and it tells us that okay, like the gut brain connection, and how again they're taking in so much because they have again, like if we're just to think anatomically, like they have this belly where they're taking in all that information. They don't have the disconnect of diet culture to tell
mhm.
them that's an issue, that's an issue. So they're able to be with the because they're feeling all of that, and so they're so wise, and so it's like
Yeah.
that's all processing, and so they're I like to bring that in, um because I mean, it speaks to like without, without kind of that layer of judgment or that disconnect that can be
Yeah.
are there's we're sensing beings, we're feeling beings, and we can trust
Mm.
when we've been trained out of that. And that's when things can get, when that got interrupted, like that can be tricky and that can be hard. So I'll say that piece, but I'm really excited for the direction of um continuing to learn about the use of Reiki and animal Reiki, especially in my local, like our local community of Saratoga.
Yeah.
I've been over to like the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, the
Yeah,
therapeutic,
that's what I was thinking of. Cool.
and yeah, there's wonderful opportunities to bring animals into our healing, and they are co-regulating, and they
Yeah.
are this beautiful, I like to say too sometimes, like if that compassion feels hard to cultivate right now, like especially if there's been a history of trauma, and there's been challenges with the relationship with oneself, like to feel
Yeah.
compassion for oneself for what's present can feel hard.
Yeah.
I Part of what I teach in the Befriending Your Body program and what comes through is like, can we begin to take compassion from the outside in? Like,
Yeah.
where are the compassionate beings around us that can maybe mirror to us what's natural to us too? And often that comes really naturally through animals. Like your friend there just wants to be with you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, like I'm just right here. And yesterday when I went to the farm, like the horse was like giving me love on my shoulder.
Oh,
I was just like, I just met you. You know what I mean? And so it's
right, right.
such an unfiltered flow of energy
Yes.
towards all
Yes.
beings. And so when we can just realize and kind of resonate in that way of like, we're not separate, we're not cut off,
Yeah.
we are interconnected. Like I think with animals and even if we're to be with nature, like to feel yourself connected to nature, these are all like co-regulators. And sometimes I say like co-regulation is the best thing for our nervous system beyond like an
Yeah.
individual practice. So if we're to just be with
Yeah.
co-self, it's doing so much. But what I like to say too, if they're because some people have, and for myself, like I had a lot of social anxiety and like
Sure,
found
yeah.
being with people like hard. And so
Mhm.
some of the more natural ways for me to access and kind of scaffold up to co-regulation was really starting with like, I'm going to go be with the trees. I'm going to be out with nature. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
do things that feel more safe for me as I then build that muscle. And with animals or with children or in these other ways, we're able to access that will provide the safety our system is seeking.
Yeah. Yeah. If it feels hard to find it from the inside, you can start by just surrounding yourself with good influences and co-regulators who that's
Yeah.
gonna be the title of this episode. Horses haven't been bullied by diet culture, so they've got it figured out.
They have not, they
Yeah,
are
like, she
people.
doesn't care what I think, like, a human would be like, "Am I imposing on you by sitting and, like, then, like, getting all up in your face?" Like, she doesn't care, she just wants what she wants. It's
Yeah.
like a certain level of freedom. So, I have
Yeah.
one more and, like, this question's coming with a bias because I want as many people in the world to hear this from as many people as possible, and if you disagree with me, that's okay. It's okay if it backfires. But, like, we talked a lot about, like, what to maybe, like, seek out or what to focus on or, like, maybe, ways to just start noticing, right? So that's kind of like an addition concept. What do you think we should subtract from our day that might make this easier? I have one, and I'm hoping it's what you're gonna say. Obviously, like I said, loaded with bias here trying to get you to say what I want you to say.
Subtract. I mean, part like I actually love this question, and I think part of where it's bringing me is as like there's so much external, like there's inherent comparison, and so kind of subtracting some of that and coming in like kind of clear, like there's something in clearing enough of that so that there can be an inner clarity. So that's the answer I have.
But, like, the thing that comes to mind for me and the thing that I see sabotage so many people is the constant phone. Like
Yeah.
the social media, the phone, that's the answer, right? Like, that's what I was, like, trying to get you to say, and you, of course, went, like, bigger picture and more beautiful with it, but, like, the constant, like, picking up the phone every time there's a dull moment, grabbing the phone when you're in line, grabbing the phone when you walk over to the bathroom, like,
Yeah.
that constant stimuli pulls you out of presence. Like, I'm not even a pro in that world, but, like, I can say that for certain, and it's messing people up. It's, like, constantly interrupting the flow of a thought, the flow of a feeling, the getting through completing the circuit of something uncomfortable or completing the circuit of something joyful. Like, yeah, so I guess, like, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you think social media is, like, playing a big role in
Yeah.
allowing people to tap out of themselves or, like, giving people another quick hit out where, like, someone might not necessarily have struggled with this, but, like, this fricking phone is like
Yeah. It's so true. I love and I mean, I think what you're saying about the circuit, like, it's a way to but the thing is it interrupts the
yeah,
like, it's not all digesting, and so many open loops can be a lot and this is the thing with the
yeah,
nervous system, so many open loops can be alive, so then that actually settling or sense of completion or sense of resolution, everything's like an open wire where it's like, "Okay,
yeah,
where to go with this? Where to" and that's where this hyperarousal will just live in this
yeah,
because we're even then, so we make a bid, we go online or we go into the phone and there's so many open loops. So it's highly activating.
yeah,
And I mean when I was in my master's program, I learned one of my teachers, she spoke a lot about like digital addiction and that the real
yeah,
physiology of that. And so I hold it with a compassion in the sense that the wiring and the firing in the brain is that which it's working on those neural circuits. And every time we even just behaviorally reach for, it's almost as if we're like microdosing because
mhm,
that hit. And so it's a real feedback loop that I like to acknowledge too. Like it has a physiology and it is something that is pervasive and can be really hard. And just, we were just speaking about, co-regulators. I think that can be like people reach to for a bid for co-regulation. They're
yeah,
wanting some soothing. And what I would say is just I never judge it, but there can be other sources in a moment like that. And
yeah,
sometimes the safety we're seeking, externally, if we can kind of have more of, almost like a buffet of options. So
mhm,
that's not the only way. And because we know of that feedback loop and what that's really doing, if we can bring a mindfulness to that. Yeah.
yeah, well said. Okay, good. So, we'll wrap up. I'll ask my closing question that I ask every guest, and that is, what do you wanna be doing when you're 80 years old?
I saw this and I was like, I love this so much. I have to say, I want to be offering the Reiki. I want to be offering the Reiki. And I think I just want to part of where like I think my journey has been is just like constantly learning and growing. And so I hope at 80 that like I still have that spirit for life and I am still kind of pulled into learning things and also sharing them in a way that is resonates and is authentic. So I hope to be in that way at 80.
Yeah, believe it or not, so many of I ask every guest this question, and most people say they just still wanna be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that is amazing. That is like so many people I tend to get really downtrodden about the world and will like poop on our country and our society pretty frequently. But the
Yeah.
fact that like, I've got probably 25, 30 people living super aligned lives, spending
Mhm.
the time to talk to us is just so cool. There's a lot more good than there is bad, and I think that's important to remember,
Yeah. It's
especially during these times.
yeah.
So,
And I think that I so appreciate that because I think that energy for what one's doing in that life force, like can
yeah,
get someone through their life and have a ripple and an impact. And so even knowing that
absolutely.
inspiring.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, Katie, where can everybody find you? I'll put it in the show notes, but in case anybody wants to go find you right now,
So
Where are you?
I'm on Substack at Katie Krager. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook at Katie Krager. And I'm in the process of like building my website and all those things. So
Great.
I'll be able to kind of like more direct that, and I'll have that all kind of living on my social medias. So as I get that
Perfect.
out, find me there. And I really genuinely am always open to really connect with anyone. If that's by email, you can email me, katiekragersw@gmail.com, or just shoot me a message or a DM. Like I'm super receptive, and I always
Yeah.
find connections to be a great opportunity.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending the time with us today.
Thank
And this will all be out in a couple days with all the information. So thanks, everybody.
Amazing.
Have a
Thank you.
good rest of the day. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks.